Shaka of Senzangakona, the man of honor, the man of mission, the man of monumental accomplishment. Yet, when the world speaks of him, when films dramatize his name, he is too often reduced to a shadow of who he truly was. A bloodthirsty tyrant, a brutal conqueror, a man of fear. But that is only one side of the story, and a deeply distorted one. How can we understand our history when the mirrors held up to us only reflect violence? How can we understand where we come from when history reduces its leaders to savages? This is not just a misrepresentation of a man. It is the deliberate distortion of a nation's genesis. Shaka Zulu did not emerge from nowhere. His rise was shaped by storms that began before his birth. Southern Africa was in upheaval, fragmented by trade rivalries, collapsing kingdoms, and internal clan struggles. Each chief ruled their corner, setting their own terms for trade, creating a chaotic environment ripe for foreign manipulation. But in this chaos, leaders emerged. Visionaries. King Zwida of the Ndwandwe rose first, amalgamating clans under one flag to streamline trade routes from coast to hinterland. But Zwida's power disrupted the Mtetwa, another great trading power ruled by King Jobe and later his son Dingiswayo. When Dingiswayo rose to challenge Zwida, it was not just a clash of kingdoms, but a battle of ideologies, unity versus dominance. In this furnace of transformation, a young warrior named Shaka was being forged. Abandoned by his father, rejected by his mother's clan, raised under scorn, but rising with resolve. Dingiswayo saw not just a warrior in Shaka, but a nation builder. A mind that thought in generations, not just in battles. And so Shaka was mentored, not just to fight, but to unite. When Shaka finally took leadership of the Zulu, the year was 1816. The mission had begun. Under his vision, scattered clans were united into one formidable nation, the Zulu kingdom. He was not just organizing warriors. He was structuring a state, streamlining trade, and enforcing diplomacy. From Delagoa Bay to the Natali hinterlands, it is said that traders, African and European, paid tribute to the Zulu king. By 1824, British traders approached Shaka, not with muskets, but with petitions, asking for permission to open a port in Natali. They negotiated. They pledged tribute. Because they knew King Shaka was a statesman, not a savage. In his kingdom, loyalty was rewarded. Gifts of cattle, land, status. He governed through structure and honor. Subservient chiefs were appointed tribal authorities, not stripped of identity, but empowered to lead their people within a larger national vision. Contrary to the fear-driven myths, many early colonial traders described Shaka as charming, hospitable, benevolent, and even pleasant in private. Even James, King of Port Natali, admitted. He was stern in public, but warm in private. Shaka was a man of order. So how did we come to forget this? How did we let the battlefield eclipse the boardroom? How did we reduce a diplomatic giant to a war drum caricature? Yes, Shaka fought. Yes, he defended. But so did every leader of his time. What made him great was not the spear, but the vision behind it. Some believe his mission started long before he rose. That King Zwida began it. That Dingiswayo advanced it. That Shaka completed it. They were building a state, not a bloodline, but a nation formed by shared purpose, not just shared ancestry. Look deeper, and you'll find that even King Zwida was grooming Mzilikazi, son of Mashobane, to carry the torch. Just as Dingiswayo groomed Shaka. They were not obsessed with kingship. They were obsessed with order, with unity, with legacy. Let this be known. Shaka of Senzangakona was not a tyrant. He was a man with a vision, a wound, and a mission. Was a builder of nations, a father to the Zulu identity, a warm, proud, visionary African king who cared, who built, who dreamed. Shaka Zulu was not a monster. He was the beginning of a dream that we are still waking up to.